If you're not aware, Leonardo DiCaprio's dating preferences has been quite a topic of conversation lately. This is a chart showing Leonardo DiCaprio's dating history. You can see here in orange, his age increasing over time, but in blue, that's his girlfriend's age, and they're consistently around 20 to 25. So it's obvious that he has a preference for young and beautiful women, and because of this, he's been receiving a lot of hate in the media. It bothers me that we have this double standards in society where a man can say that he wants a young and beautiful girlfriend, and he's gonna be made fun of or called shallow, a creep, a pervert, or even sexist. But people don't call women shallow or superficial even if they're with a man only because of his wealth or status. This is really concerning because we are at the point where deriving sexual preferences based on biological facts is somehow shallow or sexist. If we're going to call men shallow for judging women based on their appearance, then we must also call women shallow for judging a man based on his wealth and status. If a man goes for a woman with no morals, no compassion, no intelligence, he's dating her only because she's hot. That is extremely shallow. But so is a woman who completely ignores a man's character, and she's dating him only because he's rich. But is that it? Is that where we leave it? If one gender's preferences are shallow, then we should call the other gender's preferences shallow as well. Or can we get to the point where we stop judging each other's preferences and just accept that certain things come more natural to us? So in this video, I'm going to explain how these gender preferences come about and why it is completely normal to have these preferences. From an evolutionary perspective, there are two types of pressure that mold us into who we are. The first one is natural selection and the second one is sexual selection. Natural selection is about our ability to survive. How well can you adapt to your physical environment? For example, becoming stronger, running faster, jumping higher, or having the ability to camouflage. Natural selection is no doubt a very strong driving force that shaped evolution. The less understood is sexual selection because it doesn't have anything to do with survival. It has everything to do with reproduction. It's about evolving in a way that makes you more appealing to the opposite sex. That way you can reproduce and pass on your genes. An obvious example of sexual selection is the male peacock tail. From a survival point of view, this tail serves no purpose. If anything, it's a huge liability because it makes you more vulnerable to predators. So why would a male peacock evolve to have this tail? Well, it has nothing to do with survival, but it has everything to do with reproduction. This tail is a beautiful display as an attempt to get the female peacock to mate with him. It is sexual selection that has crafted the male peacock tail. Here are some other examples of sexual selection. You see, evolution is a never-ending process, different combinations of genes that create new traits every single generation. Most of these traits will die out, but those that provide an advantage, either in survival or reproduction, inevitably they become more common over time. Now, for a highly sociable creature like human, sexual selection has had a much bigger impact on our psychology than natural selection. Simply put, most of the traits that men and women have, they evolved to help us attract the opposite sex. Why did men evolve to be strong, ambitious, goal-driven, and analytical? It's because those are the traits that women prefer from men. Women wanted men to be intelligent enough to be able to recognize or predict danger. They wanted men who were strong enough to overcome those dangers and able to protect them. They wanted men who were ambitious enough to reach a high status in society because then they'll be able to provide for their families. You see, as time goes on, sexual selection exerts its influence. Men with these traits begin to mate more. They're the ones that get to pass on their genes. So over time, men develop these characteristics that women find sexually desirable, and this created a self-reinforcing cycle like a feedback loop throughout evolution. This is why most men today are inherently strong, ambitious, goal-driven, analytical. This is how sexual selection works. Each gender dictates how the other gender should behave. Now, what about men's preferences? What does sexual selection look like for women? Well, men prefer women who are fertile and have good genes. Fundamentally, it all boils down to her ability to have healthy children. This is the reason why women pay so much attention to their appearance. It's because of thousands of years of evolution and sexual selection that has demonstrated over and over again to women that that's what men care about. Is she young, healthy, attractive? This is also why you see hundreds of YouTube channels dedicating to men's self-improvement, while for women, this is the equivalent of beauty and fashion channels. Let that sink in. YouTube channels for men's self-improvement are the equivalent of women's fashion and beauty channels. Now, if you think men are better than women because women spend all their time focusing on their appearance, then you completely miss the point. Women are simply responding to what men are interested in. So you see, there's nothing superficial or shallow about these preferences. These are biological facts. Men are the way they are because of women's preferences, and women are the way they are because of men's preferences. These gender preferences are completely intertwined, and no amount of shaming or complaining is ever going to change this. Now, personally, I like beautiful women. I don't feel ashamed about that. The more beautiful, the better. And I don't think that makes me shallow. If anything, it makes me normal because, like we discussed, biologically speaking, as a man, I am hardwired to respond to youth and beauty because those are indications of health and fertility. If any straight guys said to me, I'm not attracted to young and beautiful women, no. I want to be with a really old and ugly woman. My first thought isn't, wow, you are so progressive and not at all shallow. No, my first thought would be, dude, what's wrong with you? That's not normal. And the same principle applies to women. If a woman says to me, I'm really attracted to that guy. He's tall, handsome, smart, and rich. I'd be like, yeah, that's what I would expect. Throughout evolution, women have evolved to respond to men with good genes who can also provide and protect. That's not superficial. That's completely normal. But if she says to me, I'm really attracted to homeless guys who are short and ugly, I'd be like, what's wrong with you? That's not normal. So can we end this stupid war on gender preferences, calling each other's preferences shallow? As a man, I'm attracted to youth and beauty. That's normal. You're a woman, you're attracted to wealth and status. That's also normal. There's nothing wrong with these preferences. Evolution has created them for a reason. But if that's the only thing you focus on and you completely ignore the other person's morals and characters, well then yes, now that is shallow. That is superficial. And that is shameful. So for all the men out there, if you're dating a woman with no morals or characters, and you're only dating her because she's beautiful, I think you're shallow. For a woman, if you're dating a man with no morals or characters, and you only date him because he's rich, you are shallow. I know my perspective might be upsetting for some people, and that's okay. Agree or disagree, let me know in the comment. Until next time, stay curious.